Hey guys, it's Dragon Scales. I am back with another part of Speechless. So, we're gonna get right into the story. Let's go. Sirens blared in the background as he was on the phone with 911 with 911 operator. The sound around him started to get drowned out by the fear he felt. Soon he couldn't hear the words coming out of his mouth. He felt himself yelling but couldn't hear it. The paramedics arrived running into the house to find Tony with wide eyes, clutching the phone tightly and breathing rapidly. Another paramedic came in, put his dad on a gurney, and wheeled him to the ambulance. A paramedic went over to Tony and tried talking to him, but Tony was so full of fear he froze there slouching on the ground. The paramedic sat on the ground next to him. "Are you alright, kid?" He asked. He asked. Still no response. "Take him with us," another paramedic said. The paramedic that sat down with him threw Tony's arm over his shoulder and then walked him to the fire truck. They drove not too far behind the ambulance as they went to the hospital. They arrived, and the paramedics in the ambulance rushed his dad into the hospital. One of the paramedics in the truck walked Tony inside and sat down with him in the ER waiting room. Tony's hearing slowly returned, but he was still frozen in shock of what just happened. A few minutes later, the doctor came in. "Is there a Tony in here?" he asked. "Right here," Tony squeaked. The doctor walked over to him and everything went silent. He collapsed in the heaving sobs, and one of the paramedics sat by his side holding him. "Not again, please, not like Mom," Tony thought. A few minutes later, one of its aunts came in, picking Tony up and walking him to her car. They arrived at her house, and she sat him down on her couch. He tried talking to his aunt tried talking to him, but he couldn't hear her over the shock of losing his dad. She walked him to the bedroom and left him in there as she walked into the kitchen to start making food. His hearing did not return the following day, leaving him terrified. His aunt walked in mouthing something at him, but he couldn't hear her. He tried saying "I can't hear," but nothing came out. Her expression softened, and she walked him to the front door and opened it. Riley was standing there. She smiled sweetly and waved. Seeing how he couldn't exactly talk to her himself, he waved at her. She pulled out her phone and had a Google Doc open saying, "How are you?" Tony motioned toward her phone and she handed it over. He typed, "I feels like chaos and shock and the shock of everything somehow made me lose my hearing, and I don't know if I'll get it back." He then gave the phone back to her to look at it. Her eyes slightly widened, and then her expression settled, and she began typing. She turned the phone around again, and her expression softened. It read, "Well, I guess we have something in common. We can't speak." He motioned again toward the phone and began typing. "I can speak. It's just the sound of me. It just sounds like I'll be yelling when I do." Tony gave the phone back to her again and tried to nervously laugh, but he wasn't sure if it sounded like one. She slowly smiled again, and again to Tony, the smile felt familiar and warmer every time he saw it. She typed yet again and turned the phone and read it, and it read, "Could I see your phone?" He nodded and grabbed his phone out of his pocket, then handed it to her. She typed something on his phone, and then she handed it back. She had gotten into his messenger app and added him to friends. His phone vibrated with a notification that read, "This way you have someone to talk to." He looked at her and smiled. something he hadn't done for a few months. She returned the smile, waved goodbye, and she headed toward the car and got in it. The next day, Tony went to school and ran into a few problems. First off, he couldn't answer the questions out loud, and he couldn't ask to use the board because he was afraid he'd start yelling. He started to shake his head when the teacher pointed at him. Also, he couldn't hear the lessons, so he had to write everything that was on the board down. And he couldn't stay focused because he couldn't hear when the teacher began talking. Am I ever going to get my hearing back? He wondered in the back of his mind as he went through the day. He also couldn't hear the bell, so he had to constantly check to see if everyone was moving or not. He got into the next classroom and breathed a sigh of relief, hoping that he could get some tips from Riley. After class, he met up with her and texted her. "Could I ask a few questions?" "Sure," she responded. "Ask anything." "How do you deal with not being able to talk in the classroom because teachers will ask me questions and I can't just give it to them?" He texted. "Get a piece of paper and write on it, then show it to the class," she responded. "Also, I sometimes don't know when they're talking to me because I can't hear them," he texted. "Well, I never had problems with hearing, though I would say just pay close attention to the teachers carefully." She texted back. "I can't hear the lessons either. I have to write everything down," he texted. "Well, I can't give you any real advice on that one. Did the teachers know what happened? She responded. "I don't think my aunt has told them yet," he texted back. All of a sudden, Riley was pushed forward by those boys that they ran into the other day. All he could do was watch their mouths move, and Riley's expressions changed from calm to anger. Tony put himself between her and the boys, and they mouthed something and walked off. Tony's phone pinged with a message from Riley. It read, "Looks like they aren't going to leave me alone for a while." Okay, guys, that's going to be it for this part of the book. I shall see you guys later, and bye-bye.